Jordan Cornette here, honored to be sitting alongside two people that know a little bit about lifting, propping their cities up, respectively Cincinnati and Los Angeles here. Jordan Cornette, for those who don't know me, I am a host at ESPN, wear a lot of different hats there. One of them is working alongside my ball and chain. I can call her that because she's not here in Los Angeles with me. Doing a show, also cover college basketball, the NBA, the NFL, and college basketball. I am not neutral this weekend. I'm rooting for the Cincinnati Bengals. I want to make that very clear. Julie likes that. Some of the crowd likes that. Adam Burke to my right does not like that.
A little less
where
so.
we'll start.
A little less so.
As we talk about tourism and growing these cities, two cities that do a phenomenal job. I'm proud to call one of them the birthplace and home where I was raised, and that being Cincinnati, and one I love to come visit here in Los Angeles. So let's start with our Angelino here in Adam Burke, the president and CEO of Los Angeles Tourism.
No coin toss?
We'll get to all the competition, the coin toss,
Okay.
and all that stuff here. Are you a heads guy or are you a tails guy?
Heads.
Okay. Heads doesn't, his tails never fails. We'll work on that one with you. And then we've got Julie Calvert, president and CEO of Visit Cincy. Very excited to have you guys here to talk about the things you're doing for Los Angeles and Cincinnati to make them such very cool places and destinations, quite frankly. So, Adam, let's start with Los Angeles here. It's a destination city, 365 days of the year, quite frankly. Yet this weekend, it still feels like there's even more buzz because of the Super Bowl and the Bengals being in town taking on your Los Angeles Rams. How is tourism impacted by this weekend?
So yeah, I mean, we are absolutely thrilled to be having the big game here, and it's not just because it's this opportunity to showcase SoFi Stadium, which, you know, for those of you who haven't seen it, it is the world's most state-of-the-art sports and entertainment facility. Thank you, Mr. Kroenke. But I think the bigger thing for both Julie and me is it's been a hard couple of years for everyone, but the tourism industry has been particularly hit hard. You know, we have seen job losses of over 1 in 3 in our industry. So if you just look at the economic impact of these major events, and Super Bowl is one great example, we know that we'll see up to $500 million of new business sales because of the Super Bowl being in LA. And more importantly, from my perspective, it'll create thousands of new jobs for Angelinos. So we're incredibly excited to be hosting the game. Huge shout out to Cincy for an amazing comeback. I think these are two teams that deserve to be in the big game because they showed a lot of grit in getting here.
Kind of nice to hear those sorts of things from a place where you're visiting, Adam. We appreciate that. Julie, Cincinnati's not hosting the Super Bowl this year, but there's still a lot going on as we are a Super Bowl city. I do want to say, being a native Cincinnati and hearkening back to 2015 and the All-Star game being there, living outside of Cincinnati, that was one of my most proud moments, really, to see our city propped up on that stage and how skillfully and seamlessly everything was executed. Yeah. And I know if we ever had the opportunity for a Super Bowl, we knocked that out of the park. But we do have a Super Bowl presence in Cincinnati this weekend. What exactly is going on?
Well, you know, so we're not the Super Bowl host, but certainly it is a Super Bowl city. Mm-hmm. And Adam talked about the boost in the economy that LA is seeing from that. We're seeing the same thing in Cincinnati. Our hotels are sold out this weekend. You know, in every weekend since we made the playoffs, it's been a sellout in downtown Cincinnati. So that's a boon to the restaurants, to the bars, the small business owners, the minority business owners, you know, the pop-up shops that are happening all over the place. So it has really been an amazing thing to experience and see. And, you know, for us, I mean, as is LA, we're a bid city for the FIFA World Cup. Mm-hmm. And so when we keep having big events like this, those just become dress rehearsals, you know, for FIFA. And so that's going to be a huge thing, you know, for us moving forward. The city's all in on it. The excitement has never been higher, you know, and I never thought I would say that again, you know, after the All-Star game, which was a thrill to be involved with and to really have in our city. But, you know, if you weren't a Bengals fan, you are now. I mean, everybody's just, it's really kind of, you know, brought the city together. You know, it's been a tough few years for everybody, in particular our industry. But the way that people are working together, the harmony that's going on, it's really a boost to the morale, and it's a boost to just everybody's spirits of what's happening.
And actually kind of piggybacking off of that, I mean, I think one of the wonderful things about tourism is I think a lot of people don't realize that tourism boards like ours are nonprofits. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not for-profit entities. The whole reason we exist is to serve our local community. So LA Tourism has over 1,000 members, and these are small businesses, large businesses all across the greater LA area. So for them, and it's very much the same for Visit Cincy, you know, what we're looking to do is anything we can do to help elevate our partners, our members, and help them get back on their feet. And I think that's one of the things is that people don't realize is we're there to serve our community. visitors coming to our great destinations is something that really helps drive job creation, economic impact, but also things like community benefit. If you think about a lot of the amazing things that get built in great destinations like Cincy and LA, part of the business model for those is they're relying on visitors to come and spend money. So something like a SoFi Stadium, a big driver for that is they know that it'll be a huge host for major meetings and conventions. It'll be a great site for tours for visitors. So a lot of the benefits we see as Angelenos and people see living in Cincy, those are coming because of the tourism model. So it's really a community benefit.
That's right.
You know, one of the things in getting prepared to sit here with you guys, and really cool what you guys do, by the way, because you represent in a lot of ways what these cities are and their inner fabric. And Julie, one of the things I read about was how one of your proudest achievements is Source Cincinnati, and it was one of the things you took great pride in because it focused on the positive stories. And let's be honest, we see enough negative every time we turn on the TV. With that project, but furthermore that mindset, why is the positive outlook, and how do you use that and frame that towards Cincinnati?
Yeah. So, you know, when we set out to market the city, right, you know, we've talked to people, and it's not they had a negative or a positive perception, just sort of like, I just don't know what there is to do there. And nobody really owned that national media voice, that national media space. So that's why, at the time, Source Cincinnati, which is now the Cincinnati Experience,
Of course.
run by Anastasia Milam, who's here with us this week, is so important to elevate that voice, to bring people together, to bring a unified message, you know, for Cincinnati about what there is to do here. Again, people don't move to cities that they don't visit first, and so there's a big, talent initiative in Cincinnati. There's the business attraction initiative, and there's the tourism piece of that. So all those three things have to work together in order to build the wealth and build the impact of the city. So, you know, for us, tourism, it's a $5 billion business in Cincinnati, 23 million visitors a year pre-COVID, came to Cincinnati. But we're building back, slowly. We're building back quickly, but it's a slow ride, to get to where we were before COVID. So, just the reputation of a city is so important, to keep our businesses, to attract new businesses, new visitors, new residents, and certainly the all-important talent for Cincinnati.
Yeah, absolutely, Julie. Adam, one of the cool things I've heard growing up in Cincinnati, and I've had the luxury through work and through friendships to come here several times. But I know a lot of Cincinnatians who are really excited because this is their first time.
Sure.
And I think that's what's really cool about getting a bid to a Super Bowl like our group has made it here is it provides opportunities for those who may not have the means or maybe the push, the motivation to say, I'm going to take that trip across the country and go see LA. What are they in store for in the city? We know about Hollywood. We know about one of the Ohioans and LeBron James that you took from our area and made him a champion here.
Hey, you know what? We will always steal from the best. You kidding?
What can we expect, though, here in this incredible city that's been nothing but great thus far?
Well, I will say, first of all, before I even talk about LA, I think Cincy is such a great example of how tourism is part of the fabric of the community. I'll say, having spent a fair bit of time in Cincinnati, a lot of people don't realize, it's a great, small, big city. It's got an incredible culinary scene, great arts and cultural institutions, one of the best zoos in the country. Tourism is part of the fabric of Cincy. So, for those of you who haven't had the chance, there are plenty of amazing destinations in the U.S. and absolutely recommend you spend some time in Julie's town. In LA, I guess for me as a transplant, I'm originally from Chicago. I've been out here about 30 years now. It's my adoptive home. The thing I love about LA more than anything else is it's constantly evolving. There's always something new happening. So even if you look at the past couple of years during the pandemic, we opened SoFi Stadium. We have the new Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, which is going to celebrate kind of the art and science of movie making in a way you've never seen before. So I guess what I would say to people coming to LA, particularly if they're coming from Cincy, is a couple things. One is break it down by regions, because a lot of people don't realize that LA is not just a city, it's a greater county.
Yes.
And if you really want to get your arms around it, just look at what's happening around the big games. So the game itself is at SoFi Stadium. That's in Inglewood, going to be a huge boost to that economy and the whole area. The NFL fan experience is downtown at the LA Convention Center. And we've got over 24 different events happening all over all regions of Los Angeles. So it's going to be a huge economic lift for everyone. But the best way to break down LA, we actually put together a complement guide to the official game guide. And it's the Los Angeles Tourism Super Bowl Guide. And if you go to discoverlosangeles.com/Super Bowl, we put together a whole series of 3-day itineraries.
That's awesome.
So that when you come here, if you decide you want a sports-themed itinerary, it's all right there for you. If you're someone who you're all about, I want to do pub crawls and food, it's there. If you want to do arts and culture, if you want to go hiking and experience 75 miles of coastline, all of that's there so that the itineraries are already curated for you. And then the other thing I would say is, the way we talk about LA is everyone is welcome, and it's because we're one of the most diverse and inclusive communities on the planet. I mean, it's one of the things I love about LA is my adoptive home. Angelinos come from 140 different countries, speak over 220 different languages, so no matter where you come from in the world, you're going to feel at home in LA.
It's really, really cool. I would feel like we have not leaned in enough to the pandemic because, let's be clear, it's impacted tourism in the world in every facet. But I do want to be on a positive note here because there is positive in front of us. We are seeing change for the better as we accelerate towards the right direction. And I think that's the best place to kind of conclude our conversation here. Julie, sharing with us what is going on in terms of tourism that shows signs that we're on our way back and we are headed in the right direction.
Well, every weekend in Cincinnati, the hotels are full, right? So leisure is back, leisure is strong. We're seeing people come in from all different parts of the country. We're easy to get to, 4-hour drive, or 60% of the nation's population is within our reach. So a lot of the marketing that we're doing is, along that radius. Conventions are coming back. We're seeing some business travel come back. And again, this wasn't projected to really happen in full until 2024. But in terms of what we experienced and lost in the pandemic, we're 80% back to where we were pre-COVID. So the last 20% is tough. It's the business travel, it's the conventions at full speed.
Which is coming.
Which is coming,
Yep.
right? And so there's no limits on mass gatherings and things like that in Ohio. So that has really helped to open us up quickly. And I just think and you're probably seeing this too, Adam, there's just a lot of pent-up demand. People, I just don't think they realize, travel is such a value to people, to get out and experience the different cultures and different cities and food and experiences. And when you can't do that, you realize how detrimental that has been. And so people want to get out. We're learning how to do it safely.
Yep.
We're learning how to do it with health and wellness in mind. And, so we're just seeing, lots of activity in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky. What's happening in Cincinnati. So again, great food scene here, great arts and culture, sports, culture is big.
Weather.
Fantastic. Yeah, weather.
Yeah,
So,
and I agree with you. I mean, one of the things that Julie and I have both been involved with is over the last 2 years, we've been keeping a really close eye on consumer sentiment because the last thing in the world we ever want to do is be tone deaf to people have to be ready to travel. And I love what you said because it's been about leading with health and safety. I think very, very early on there was almost kind of a false narrative that somehow health and safety was at odds with economic recovery. And I think our view has also always been, no, they go hand in hand. The way you can have a sustainable reopening of your economy is to lead with health and safety. And much like Cincy, although I think a lot of people may not realize, we haven't had any capacity restrictions for some time now. We've really been fully open since mid-June. So that's one thing. But in terms of why we're so optimistic, talking about consumer sentiment, every time there was a surge over the last 18 months, we saw a corresponding decline in travel intent. That has not been the case during the Omicron surge, and I think is because people have now figured out how to safely navigate this and live with it.
learning to live with it.
From pandemic to endemic. So right now, almost 80% of American travelers say that they are very excited about traveling again, and they're in what's called a travel-ready state of mind. That's been one of the biggest barometers. And 80% of Americans already have trips planned this year with an average of 3 trips. So to your point, there's so much pent-up demand. And you look at a lot of the studies that have been done, just the simple act of planning a vacation actually helps counter depression and elevates your mood, and it's because it's in our DNA. We're meant to get out and explore.
It's the optimism that people have been looking for,
Yep.
right? It's this, I've got my eye on the future. And I think, too, at least we're seeing this in Cincinnati, that there's an expectation by the traveler to provide that safety and health environment. And if you don't, then that becomes the reason, well, I'll look somewhere else where they do value how I'm feeling. So we've been very focused on that, as has Adam and his team. So, we're really bullish on the future, of travel and tourism. We certainly are looking for a nice boost to Cincinnati with all the headlines and lots of stories on Cincinnati, and really not just about the team, but tell me more about Cincinnati. Really what's the vibe, what's the culture of that community? So we're really looking at a great summer ahead of us.
I love that. I think the best place to leave it, guys, my 2 new favorite gamblers, final score and winning team. We know your winning teams are going to be We'll let the Angelino who's hosting us go first. What is your final score prediction?
All right, my final score, because I got to give Cincy a lot of credit. The Bengals are really, there's nothing more dangerous than a team that is starting to believe in itself, and the grit they have shown in the postseason. I think it's going to be a tight game. So I'm going to say final score 24-21 Rams.
Okay, low scoring. Julie, final word.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 34-31.
That's
Bengals.
my score. That's the one I
Bengals,
had on
yeah.
ESPN yesterday. I do think it's going to be 34-31. I think it's going to be a tight game. Either way, I think we're all winners.
Well, Shooter McPherson's going to come right through at the end and kick it right
Hey,
right,
Shooter.
right through,
Let's
right
go,
through.
Money Mac.
Aaron Donald may have a couple things to say about that, but
I would not want to see Aaron Donald coming at me at full speed. Hopefully Joe Burrow doesn't have that from his
he
perspective.
could not be a nicer guy, but I would not want to see him on the opposite end of a football field.
That's
No,
true.
yeah, no kidding.
Adam and Julie, thank you very much. We really appreciate what you do respectively for Cincinnati and Los Angeles.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.